You ever have that one neighbor who just takes HOA rules way too seriously? I'm talking about the kind of person who'll measure your grass with a ruler, calling a report, if your trash bin is out for more than 5 seconds. Yeah, you know the type. Well, crank that up to 10. Add a healthy scoop of crazy. And you've got my HOA president, Martha. No kidding. This woman once put a note in my mailbox because my truck clashed with the community aesthetic. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the day the FBI knocked on my door and told me Martha had planted a GPS tracker on my truck. Yeah, you heard that right. A hidden tracker. The only thing I could think was either I'm in a bad movie or this is about to get really good. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up a sec and set the stage. So this truck of mine, it's nothing fancy, just loud, old, and a little rough around the edges. I love it starts every morning, hauls what I need, and it's basically the only thing standing between me and total HOA compliance. Martha hated that truck. She'd glare at it every time I pulled into the driveway, clipboard in hand, pretending to take notes on the unsightly elements of our neighborhood. I just shrugged and told her the only aesthetic I care about is 4 wheels and an engine that runs. That pretty much made me public enemy number 1 in Martha's book. Things started getting weird when every time I left the house, Martha would materialize outside, watering her concrete driveway, like not even the lawn, just the concrete. Then 5 minutes later, boom, I'd get a passive-aggressive email from the HOA about unauthorized parking at the hardware store or a noise complaint at my favorite burger joint. You ever get that prickly feeling like someone's watching you, but you can't quite prove it? I joked with my buddy one night. Maybe she's got a tracker on my truck or something. We both laughed it off, but honestly, that little itch in the back of my mind wouldn't go away. One afternoon, I grabbed a flashlight and crawled under my truck just for laughs. And there it was, a small black box tucked right up near the bumper attached with a magnet. My heart started pounding. First thought was maybe it's some anti-theft thing, but then I ran the serial number through Google. Nope, not anti-theft. GPS tracker, like private investigator level gear. I just sat there in the driveway, jaw on the ground, trying to figure out what to do next. Cops lawyer move to Alaska. But before I did anything drastic, I decided I wanted to play along. Maybe get some proof before I blew this wide open. So I started driving my truck to the dumbest places I could think of. Goat yoga class, all-you-can-eat shrimp buffet, the kind of spots you don't admit to your family. And like clockwork, I'd get an HOA email. We're concerned about your recent activities, Mr. Thompson. Concerned lady, you're stalking my seafood habits. Maybe you should worry about your own. The weirdest night, though, I caught Martha actually standing next to my truck in my own driveway clipboard at the ready, giving it the old once-over. I said, "Hey, Martha, you auditioning for CSI Suburbia or just bored?" She didn't even blink. "Just ensuring community compliance," she said, all business eyes cold as a lizard. That's when I knew I needed backup. I called a friend who does cybersecurity for a living. He took one look at the device and goes, "Dude, this thing's transmitting live data to some weird server." Then he pauses and his whole face changes. "Wait, this is a federal domain?" I about dropped the thing right there. Next thing I know, he's making a couple calls and 2 FBI agents show up at my place. Legit suits, badges, the whole bit. One of them tells me there's an ongoing investigation and I might be part of it. I said, "All I do is drive a loud truck, man. I'm not exactly running a spy ring." Turns out that tracker was part of a whole batch being used in some federal sting operation. And get this, the buyer's info pointed right back to our HOA office. Who had admin access? You guessed it, Martha. FBI tells me to keep quiet while they monitor things for a few days. Just act normal. Yeah, sure, I'll just wave at my criminal HOA president like everything's peachy while the feds listen in from an unmarked van. Meanwhile, Martha kept piling on the violation notices. "Your truck's engine sound exceeds the community decibel limit." Honestly, I wanted to ask if she'd like me to install a muffler on her sense of boundaries. 3 days later, the neighborhood woke up to flashing lights and federal agents storming the HOA office. Martha came out yelling about neighborhood harmony while getting cuffed on the front lawn, still clutching her precious clipboard. Now, here's where it gets wild. The FBI found 27 more trackers, not just on my truck, but on half the vehicles in the neighborhood. Martha was basically running a personal surveillance state with a glass of boxed wine. The agents told me she'd been keeping spreadsheets on everyone, what time we left for work, our grocery runs, even which days we skipped mowing the lawn. That's when it all clicked. She wasn't just nosy. She was running a data operation for profit, feeding everything to this sketchy guy who called himself the consultant selling our info to real estate developers. I was living in a suburban spy novel and had no clue. But wait, there's a twist. The feds wanted to see how deep this rabbit hole went, so they asked me to play undercover at the next HOA meeting. Picture me, regular guy, barbecue tongs in one hand, secret FBI wire taped to my chest, trying not to sweat through my shirt while the whole board chowed down on stale donuts. Doug, the new acting president who still rocks a Bluetooth earpiece like it's 2007, gets up and says, "We must maintain order while Martha is away." Away as in federal holding cell. But the crazy part, he goes, "Surveillance must continue per Martha's instructions." I looked around the room, half expecting someone to stand up and say, "Are we all nuts?" But everyone just nodded like it was business as usual. Turns out the whole board was in on it. Encrypted group chats, slush funds from HOA dues, and a literal non-compliant neighbors watch list. My name was right at the top. In the middle of the meeting, Doug leans over and whispers, "We've got to move the backups before the feds check the storage shed." Storage shed right next to my house, by the way. Next morning, the FBI rolls up with vans and cracks open that shed, and it's like something out of a crime show. Computers, trackers, boxes of files, photos, drone footage, everything but a lair and a cat to pet. Doug tried to make a run for it on an electric scooter. I kid you not. One of the agents tackled him into a recycling bin, and I still hear that crash in my dreams. For a few days, it was actually peaceful. No angry emails, no HOA ninja tactics, just quiet. Then a letter arrives, no return address, just a typed note. "You shouldn't have gotten involved. Martha doesn't forget." At first, I laughed. What's she gonna do, write me up for sidewalk chalk? But that night, my motion sensor caught someone outside near my truck. Same posture, same Martha silhouette. The FBI said she had been transferred for questioning, but then rumor had it she was no longer in holding. Next morning, my bureau friend calls me. "Lock your doors. Martha's on the move again. You ever wish your life was less interesting?" Yeah, me too. 2 days later, just as I'm starting to breathe easy, there's a knock at my door, 6 a.m. I'm in pajamas, still half asleep. Guy in a suit shades clipboard. My first thought, please not another HOA rep. Nope. Department of Homeland Security. He shows me traffic cam footage, silver sedan circling my block at 3:00 a.m., driver in giant sunglasses and a messy bun. Yep, it screamed Martha. The plates trace back to a fleet car from the old HOA stash. They set up surveillance again, SUVs, birdhouse cameras, the works. I felt like an extra in Breaking Bad suburban nightmare. Even with half the board under investigation, the HOA tried to pretend nothing happened, sending me notes about my lawn height. Then came the neighborhood BBQ, which is when everything blew up. We're grilling, pretending life's normal kids, running people, laughing nervously. Suddenly someone shouts, "Hey, who parked the silver sedan by the clubhouse?" I look over, cars, running tinted windows, engine idling. My stomach drops. Homeland guy grabs his radio, calls it in. Next thing you know, agents swarm, neighbors screaming. Someone drops a plate of ribs. Chaos everywhere. They open the car and Martha steps out, calm as ever, smoothing her blazer, saying, "Just here to check on community standards." They cuff her on the spot, and she's still lecturing them about lawn violations as they read her rights. One agent rolls his eyes and says, "Ma'am, you're under arrest for multiple federal offenses." She fires back, "And you're violating noise ordinance 14B. I mean, you can't make this stuff up." But here's the final twist. When they searched Martha's car, they found a new tracker, this one sending data not to her stash, but straight to a private intelligence firm overseas. Turns out Martha had been selling our neighborhood's data internationally, everything from routines to blueprints. It wasn't just nosiness, it was actual espionage. FBI, DHS, local PD, even news vans showed up. My peaceful street turned into a three-ring circus. After that, the HOA was dissolved, the clubhouse taped off, all funds frozen. Martha. Last I heard, she's got a long time to memorize the federal code of conduct, maybe 20 years. Things slowly settled down, new families moved in, and no one cared if your trash bin was out front for a week. But me. Let's just say I get twitchy when I see a car idling on the curb. A few months later, I got one last note, handwritten. Perfect penmanship. You can change the rules, but you can't change the watchers. No signature, but I knew that script looked just like the old violation slips. I laughed, chucked it in the trash, and promised myself if another HOA forms here, I'm buying a tank. So yeah, that's how a nosy HOA president, a beat-up truck, and a $50 GPS tracker turned my neighborhood into a federal spy caper. Moral of the story, don't mess with people's trucks or the feds might just crash your next HOA meeting. Now I gotta ask, if you were in my shoes, would you have played along or blown the whistle from day one? Where's the line between community watch and straight-up stalking? Drop your wildest HOA or neighbor story down below. I promise I read every single one. And hey, maybe your tale's next. Hit subscribe if you want more justice served. Hot and tap the bell so you never miss when the next HOA villain gets what's coming. See you in the next one, where justice is just getting started.